Good morning, y'all. At least it's morning here in the central time zone. That's Chicago time. My name is Carol. I'm your host of Needing a Meeting, and I'm just going to be sitting here doing my thing until someone shows up. And I don't know, it's just a little experiment I thought I'd try. I got my coffee heating up in the microwave. So I'll be sipping my coffee, writing in my journal, and then when I hear a little noise that I hear when people are popping on, I'll pop you on and we'll have a meeting. Sound good? Okay. Tranya. Not really. It's coffee. That little guy is one of my favorite Star Trek characters. Then there's Shran. And I like Wayoon too. He's just the right amount of schmarmy. You know what I mean? I mean, Worf, forget about it, right? I mean, obviously the bridge crew, they're all going to be. There's a reason they're the stars, right? But yeah, the little once and done characters. Moving on to the next episode, some of those guys. The guy playing the one sitting right next to Trip on the prison spaceship on Enterprise with the little. Anyway, yeah, that guy. Liked that guy. Well, yeah, I did. Trying, yeah. Love him the most, though, I gotta say. Hello, seventh son. How are you? Good to see you. How you doing today? I can see the messages better when I unmark them from the bottom of the screen. How you doing? Seriously. I just thought I'd try a little something different, Um, just thought I'd wait and see if anybody needed a meeting. Just something I thought I'd give a try. I'm not here like I'll leave the entertaining stuff to the pros. But anyway, hey. Uh, no, I was not dozing off too bad. Did you want to come on and talk? That link, about 5 messages up. You can actually come in and chat like in real time, conversation wise. If you want to do that, that'd be great. And if not, we can chat this way. No worries. Okay, no worries. No worries. So, what's new? What's happening? Anything, everything? I'm sitting here sipping my coffee, second cup today. Okay. Yep, that's all right. I liked my second SMART meeting last night. Good group of folks, really good group of folks. Steve needs everything, the other Steve. That's what he likes to say. I need help, or I need everything, Carol. That's one of his Steve-isms. Right, baby? Hey, Megan. Well, I'm pretty good. How are you doing? Megan says morning to Steve, too. You, Steve. Can you see him through the window there? Yeah, I just thought I'd try a little something different, Megan. I thought I'd try just coming on and just waiting to see if anybody wanted to show up and have a meeting. If you wanted to actually talk up a little further, that link will let you in. Yeah, right on. Yeah, yeah. Hey, Tammy C, how are you? Right on. I like your name, Empowered Journeys with Tammy C. I like that. I'm going to finish this one thought in my journal. All right, thanks for that, you guys. Just wanted to finish that thought. So yeah, I was just saying that I really enjoyed the SMART meeting last night. Good group of folks, and a lot to chew on. I probably overshared, as I do, tend to do. But yeah, you guys can just have a meeting here, or you can come in the meeting room and have a meeting with anyway, whatever you guys want to do. Hey, Candy's Life. I was just telling everybody that I just thought I'd try something different. So I just kind of went live and just was sitting there writing in my journal, drinking my coffee, got up, heated my coffee, and sat back down, talked a little bit about my favorite Star Trek characters, my favorite extras. I mean, uh, one of them being Tranya, the little kid, Rob Howard's little brother. What's his name? Cliff Howard. When he was a little guy. I mean, he was great. He was a great little actor at, I don't know, he couldn't have been more than 4 or 5. It's Steve's fault. What's Steve's fault? You know, that is one of the number one perks of being married. Someone to blame shit on, right, baby? He just said it's my fault. Right on. Okay, shoot. You have a question. Okay. See you when you get back, Candy. I didn't warn anybody I was going live. I just went live just to see what would happen. See if anybody would show up. I'm oversharing now. Okay, well, that's kind of what I do. I don't know how to not. I mean, I have gotten better since I don't know, since I've gotten in my 50s maybe. I'm 58 now. But maybe not. Maybe I'm oversharing even more. Who knows? Right on, Megan. I mean, I'll take anybody's secret to the grave that asks me to. No trouble. Don't say anything. I won't say anything about anybody because it's none of my business anyway. And it's a privilege that they chose to share something with me. But me, I don't really have any secrets. I feel like secrets are kind of not always a good thing to have. I mean, I definitely have things that I don't like to talk about, things I'm ashamed of, things I regret. Those are the things that I probably should talk about more, but tend to not. Hey, pixie dust doodles. This is pretty great, you guys. Just an impromptu, decided to go live thing and see if anybody showed up wanting a meeting or needing a meeting. This is cool. It's so cool to see you guys. Right on. Hey, Christy. Good. How are you? Yeah, I didn't do a warning or tell anybody I was doing this. I just did it, came on. Thanks. Appreciate that, Candy. Yay. So, yeah, sipping my coffee, watching Steve do his thing over there. Over, as we like to say in here in Arkansas. At least these two Arkies like to do that. Steve can really put the hick on. I was telling them Steve can really put the hick on. He doesn't care. Yeah, for real, right? Yeah. And I don't have any agenda or anything. I just thought I'd see what happened if I went live, telling nobody. Right on. That'll be great. I'd love that. Oops. Every time I click a message that I wanted to put in the thing down there, the banner down there, or whatever you call it, the chat moves up and I click the wrong one. But actually, this is a good one too. Glad we all came by. Made my morning so far. Good deal. Mine too. Yeah, this is a great way to start the day. I just got, everybody out of the barn, got Billy Bob brushed, and I may have to yell at the dog to quit pestering him. Petey has just taken to he really, really, really likes Billy Bob. And he wants him to play, but Billy Bob doesn't play. He's a 5-year-old, 250-pound cooney pig that ain't got time.
He's 4.
For what?
4 years old.
Mm-mm.
Got him in 19, 20, 21, 22. I guess he's getting to be 5, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Crazy, isn't it?
20, 21. He's 4.
Okay.
19.
All right. No, I did not. Guilty as charged. Well, yes. I do too, Tammy C. Yeah. That's it. He grazes all day. He grazes and then lays down, soaks up the sun, grazes some more. Then in the evening, he's going to let you know how much he is ready for his food very insistently. It's kind of what he does. It's very cute, except for when it's not, but it's still cute. I did a video of him brushing, of me brushing him this morning. We got a new brush, and we're trying to help him with his dead dry skin flakes that he gets, because pigs just have very rough skin. It just comes with it. But maybe I can go ahead and post it. Let's see. But anyway, here we go. Let's see. Okay. Tell me about it, Tammy C. Pup's life. I love that. As you can see, he is very accustomed to being pampered. He can adapt to it just like that. Right on. Yeah, for me too. I don't know what made me think of it, but I'm glad I did, because I'm glad you guys are here. It's pretty cool. Anyway, moan Steve. Anyway, my son has a lifestyle. It's so hard on the family. That's the worst part of addiction. In addition to destroying your own life, the family never gets a moment's rest, knowing that, the person's out there, no telling where, no telling what. Okay. Right on. If you'll let Candy know the channel, she can post it as a link in the chat here. Yeah. Nice. So are you just talking about some of the stuff that's bugging you, or are you just doing something different or on your channel, I mean. Do motivation and inspiration now. Well, good deal. That sounds good. We can all use motivation and inspiration these days, for sure. That's great. As y'all can see, I'm not a gifted uh, person at monologue, but I do love to converse. Change to a support channel. Right. I recently learned that the other night a bunch of people were trying to come into the live room and they couldn't do it. So I it says on my plan that, or it did say that I could stream up to 5 channels, and I thought, okay, does that mean simulcast stream? And then others can just kind of trickle in and converse, or does that just mean 5 people can come into the room, period? Well, apparently it's 5 people can come into the room, period, because a bunch of people wanted to come in and they couldn't. And I felt really bad about that. I'm so sorry if you're watching and that happened to you. I apologize. I did up my plan. They're stingy with the amount of people they'll let in on pretty much all of these streaming services that are able to do what this guy, Restream and StreamYard and some of those guys do. I mean, even the gajillion-dollar plan doesn't let all that many people in, and that's just hooey. Addiction and mental health are very close to my heart because I have PTSD, says Tammy C. Same here, Pixie. I'm looking forward to getting to know all you guys. This is fun. Yeah. I was just thinking I'm about due for my Nacho Libre fix. They want to make a lot of money, and when you are giving support, it's got to be hard. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. I won't repeat it. Because you have to know the context. You really do. Right on. Yeah. They let me read from this. Hey, there she is.
Here I
Really good to see you.
are. Good to see you. I had to make my mushroom coffee with my, organic creamer so I can start
That
reading.
is a beautiful cup. Love that. Oh, it's a Halloween cup.
Isn't it cool? It's
It
got
looks
little
really.
bats on the
Oh, that
inside.
is adorable. From a distance, from the viewing distance, it looks like a really pretty flowery cup.
Oh, I'm always on the hunt for a good cup. I love me a cup that's like about this big because
Okay.
it's got enough in it that I can really get some good coffee and I can feel like, I'm in a coffee bar in Paris or something.
Nice. I'm picky about my cups too. I have to be able to get all 4 of my fingers in the handle,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I tend to go for big mugs.
Oh, yes. I've got to turn this the other way. I always do this wrong when I come on. Okay, there we go. Hold on.
Yeah, that's
Can
good.
I
I
see
like
me
that.
now? There we go. All right. Now I can see me. You don't look so far away. Before you looked like you were in a tunnel and you were like this big.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, this is good. So, what's new? What's happening?
Oh my God. Conk down on me. Now I can't see any of the chat or anything because of the way this is. So if somebody says something, like
Okay.
let me know. So I got in the other day and my car battery was completely dead. So we had to charge it for like 5 hours.
And it
And
charged
then it
up.
finally started. Yeah. And so then yesterday I had to run into town and I did all my running around. And then I got back home, stopped to check the mail because the driveway to get back to the uh, neighborhood, I guess, is almost like a half mile long. So I checked it there and it wouldn't start again. And so now I
Gotta
think
get a
on
battery,
Thursday I
huh?
have to go get a new battery, but
It
it's
sucks because
okay.
they are not
As
cheap anymore. They used to be, but they are not now.
oh, well, and I was telling my husband I would rather do that than to have to come up with a down payment for a car. So, you
Sure.
know, when you look at it that way, you're kind of like, it's not so
Yes.
bad.
Yes. Right on. Um, a friend of ours gave us a battery, just a random battery, and um, my battery had died. I don't know if I'd left the light on all night or what,
Uh-huh.
in the inside of the car, but Steve put that battery that the friend gave us, and it's still going on that battery. I don't know how old it is. I don't know much about it at all, but I know it's keeping the car going.
I mean, I know they can go for a long time, and I just don't know how long we, this battery's been in there because we've had the car for 4 years and we bought it used from Michael's cousin. So, I mean, who knows? But how are you feeling after the other day? Are you feeling okay? Are you
You
doing
know
better?
what? I realized as I was telling them I was oversharing in my smart meeting last night, the in-person meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized I've changed my medication. I have suffered with depression pretty much my whole life, even as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I have blackout periods in my life that I just don't remember, and I was just in that, I call it my cocoon, you know.
Right, right.
And I recently realized that I needed to talk to my doctor because I've understood within myself that my depression is cyclical. Like, you know, I dip into these lows, and I used to actually have manic episodes, but that's when I was out there drinking and using and self-medicating.
Right, right, right.
And yeah, they and actually they kind of still were happening even after I got sober and I was in church and all that. And you know, and I would just grab somebody and have them pray with me, and you know,
Mhm,
because
mhm,
what would happen is I started to pay attention to the cycles, and
mhm,
I'd start to feel this. I'd be feeling just on top of the world, like I could conquer everything, you know.
mhm, mhm.
And then I'd get this panic as the shift would start to happen, and the cocoon was closing in, as I like to call it.
Mhm.
And I never really discussed that with anybody because I didn't want to get on Thorazine or anything crazy that would just make me feel dead inside. And, you know,
Right,
I'd rather,
right.
it's like the devil, kind of thing,
Yes, yes,
you
yes,
know?
absolutely. That's a very real thing.
Yeah. And,
So,
because I watched people get admitted to our local, used to be called Charter Vista.
mhm.
And, they'd come back just pale, not interested in anything, and just closed down. And I'm like, "What did they
Yeah,
do to you in there?" You
right,
know?
right. Just
And
really
so,
over
I was
medicated.
just making the mental note every time I'd see that, "Okay, if push comes to shove, I'll keep what I got. Thanks."
Right,
You know?
right, right.
But, it seems that over time, I don't know if it's and I hate to use it but it's not just a Scientology term. I had heard it outside of Scientology, and you know, whether it's a real thing or whether it's not, there are muscle memory things and brain
Mhm.
memory things.
Mhm.
I think that certain things kind of carve a path through your synapse
Absolutely.
processes. I
Yeah.
do. And I don't know how all that works. I don't know, I'm not a brain guy or anything of the
Right.
sort, but I just wonder if, it just over time those edges started getting smoother and smoother
Mhm.
to where,
Mhm.
you know, I would just be feeling okay instead of having a manic episode, but I would
Right.
still do the dives and still get enclosed in my cocoon and,
Mhm.
and that's when you have the most trouble reaching out. And so
Right.
it's hard to make the connection to reach out for help.
Right.
Hi,
Well,
Kelly. Good to see
yeah,
you.
because you want to internalize it because it's almost like you don't want to be a burden to somebody, even though it's not really being that. And, but your body does hold trauma. And
Yeah,
especially if you have lived in a situation where you were in survival mode for a very long time, it's really going to hold that because it's what your body gets used to,
right.
and and how things and how you process it. So you're very, very true in that,
Yeah.
you
So,
know.
well, go ahead. Had
Oh,
you
no, that I was just gonna say you are right that it does, because that's what your basically your brain is getting rewired that this is normal, and that becomes your baseline. And then once you move past that and you rewire your brain again to something else, it will revert back to that. If you're in a situation where it's starting to look similar or feel similar, you will go back. I mean,
yeah,
physically trauma doesn't leave your body. And that's why
um,
things like therapy and reaching out and talking to somebody is so important because it's almost like you step back in time. That's why people call it going backwards, regressing. You go back to what you know and where you were. And in some instances, that can be dangerous or scary for people. But, absolutely, you know, that's the case.
hey,
So,
Tammy, good to see you. Thank you
all
for
right,
joining
Tammy.
us. But I was actually where I was going with that was I did call my doctor because I was
Mhm.
desperate. I
Right.
mean, I was a walking catatonic, I don't know what.
Mhm.
And I really needed to be functional. It's like
Right.
I would have to save up all my energy for the morning and the evening chores, and that's all I had. That's it,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the house just got terrible. Stuff's
Mhm.
been piling up, and I cleaned the ground zero room, as I like to call it,
There
the
you go.
catch-all room, and so I got to work my way through the house, finding
Sure.
finding places for everything, whether it's the thrift store or the dumpster, you know, or whatever. And uh so I called my doctor and I said, "Look, I don't know if I'd ever told her that I felt like my depression had always been cyclical, but I did."
Mhm.
And so she tried me on one thing and it was awful. And then
Mhm.
she tried me on something else. And the pharmacist said it would take about a month for it to
Yeah.
start, seeing the whether it's working. And it
Right.
is. And that
Good.
whole thing of when I needed that drink the other day, it's like I'm coming awake. I'm coming out of this long ass hibernation
Right.
and everything woke up.
Yeah.
Everything's waking up, including addiction that I shoved over here in the corner for all those years
Mhm.
when I was
Mhm.
trading my alcohol addiction for, coercive control type religion. And
Mhm.
whew, yeah. So that because I didn't know where it was coming from, but that
Yeah. Yeah.
that made sense. That made sense.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's always helpful when you can make it make sense.
Oh, well, yeah, because there's nothing more scary than the unknown, because you just don't know, and to have been sober for that long and then to find yourself in that place, I can imagine that was scary,
Yeah,
nerve-wracking.
yeah.
So your smart meeting, is this like a like a therapy meeting? What are smart meetings?
It's a recovery group.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But the uh the premise kind of goes in a different direction. Like, we don't focus on the past. We're
Okay.
focusing on now and going forward. Not that
Mhm.
he gave us this worksheet last night. And it's really good. You know, if when you're driving,
Yes, I
you
love
got
that. The
you
windshield
got
is
the
bigger than the rearview mirror.
that's right. For
Yep.
a reason. You got to see where
Mhm.
you're going. But
Mhm.
you do also have to be mindful of what's here, because if you're not, it'll come back to surprise you and bite you in the butt,
Yeah.
and you'll relapse or lapse, or who knows,
Right. 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 Right.
But yeah, when the new thing started kicking in, I went on a crazy shopping binge. I mean, I went Timu bazooka level.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got a whole bunch of stuff coming in, so I have some things to look forward to, but I need to find a new thing to look forward to, because
Right.
that's my second addiction, and it's every bit as strong as booze.
Is shopping?
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's one that a lot of people have mentioned to me that I never really thought about it on that level.
Sorry, I was reading the thing. What Kelly Girling really wanted to join the video chat, but it seems I caught the flu from my husband, feeling rotten. But you folks are so calming for me. Well, good.
Oh,
I'm glad, and I'm sorry you're feeling bad, man.
yeah.
The things that have been going around are
Mm.
brutal. I got
Mhm.
knocked down. I don't know if it was a cold or the flu or what it was. I tested 3 different days for COVID, waiting the 5-day gestation period and all
Right.
that before testing. No COVID, but whatever it was, it knocked me down I was down for a good couple of days. So I'm sorry that you're going through
Yeah,
that.
this
It
time
sucks.
of year is so bad for that too.
Mhm.
It just is not fun. I found when I don't feel good, I do a lot of fresh ginger and a lot of hot tea. Elderberry is really good if you're looking for a more natural way. Elderberry is really, really good. If you can find dead purple nettle or dead purple nettle tea, that helps loosen up the congestion in your chest and it'll help get it out.
Yeah.
So there's some things like that that you can try, but sometimes it's just terrible and you don't want to do anything.
Hello again. How are you, Tammy C?
Tammy, are you
Oh
there?
no, it's not Tammy C. It's Candy's Life. No, I need to get this message off so I can see in the corner here what we got. Tammy C, how are you today?
I wonder if she's having problems with her mic like I was the one day. I had to hold up a little sign.
But yeah, I liked this.
Mm-hmm.
The rearview mirror is small, and
Right.
the road ahead is wide.
Well,
And
and it's true, I mean, you have to. I mean, there's a reason we study history. It's so that we don't make the same mistakes and we can learn from it. But I agree too. I think being in the past is a dangerous place to be. You can't be present and you can't be in the moment and you can't enjoy what you're going through and feel the things that you're going through and look forward to the future. I mean, um, I know that's kind of a hippie way to see it, but
That's
that's
okay.
how
I'm a
I
hippie, so it works for me.
well, it's how I feel it because, I think sometimes when you spend too much time looking back, can cause you to get really depressed,
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, I should have seen this or I should have known that instead of just kind of like, okay, well, this is this is where it is and we're gonna go forward from here. And so
Yeah.
did they get your medication? Like so it's starting to kick in and you feel like it's helping?
Definitely. I have been able to
Good,
do things like right, like I've had super productive days. I've had
good.
non-productive days, but that's
Right.
kind of normal.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but I've had more productive days than non-productive. But those
Good.
non-productive days can serve a purpose too. But you were asking about smart recovery. This is the handbook for it. And it's
Oh.
not just for alcohol and drugs, it's for any addictive behavior or any,
Oh.
I mean, it's just about addiction and how to go forward beyond your drug of choice, for a lack of a better term.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, uh, Tools and strategies to help you on your recovery journey. Stop your addiction from harming your career, your relationships, and your health. Learn practical tools that have helped millions of people for more than 25 years. Improve your ability to positively handle life's challenges and build a meaningful life beyond addiction. And
Mm.
SMART is an acronym, and I need to memorize what the acronym is. Uh, so I've been reading from this handbook at the beginning of my 440 meetings.
Oh, is that what you were reading the other day?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm just kind of
Okay.
moving through the handbook. I just got my
Sure.
email last week from the SMART headquarters
Mhm.
giving me permission to read from the handbook. Because what I did is I scheduled the meeting and I'd already said that I was going to read from the handbook. And then as I was reading the introduction, don't do this, don't use this without permission, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, I'd already announced it. So I will write them and ask for permission
Yeah.
and I'll read it. And if I have to take the video down or just edit that part out, I'll do that. And I
Nice.
just kept doing that and waiting for them to, respond to the email. It took about a week almost.
Sure.
And, but they did say that I could, as long as I wasn't making money on it, which I'm in no even close to danger of making money on
Sure.
doing this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, is this something that's in every state? So if like AA meetings don't work for people, is this something that they could look into as well?
100%. There are
Oh,
in-person meetings, there are live meetings online, there's chat, there's audio, there's video or audio only meetings. It's
cool.
it's 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 a network a lot like that, but it's got a different strategies, I guess you'd say.
Sure.
Okay, so
Nice.
SMART stands for self-management and recovery training.
Well, I
Self
like that.
Yeah, self-management and recovery training. Recovery is difficult, but with persistence, effort, and support, you can take back your life.
Well, and that sounds like that would be a good thing to anybody. I mean, I love knowledge. I love to read. I love to learn, and I'm always like amazed at what's out there as far as like self-help goes. I don't like some of the labels because it makes you feel like self-help kind of makes you feel like maybe you're broken
Yeah,
a little
there's a
bit.
stigma attached to
We're
it. No,
all a
no
little
question.
broken.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
I think anything that can make you more self-aware and more mindful is amazing. And I hate that there's such a stigma sometimes around some of that, because
mhm.
you would think that there's really good things in there. And because if there weren't, it wouldn't still be around. It wouldn't be working for people. People wouldn't be talking about, these things. And I
Yeah.
think it's amazing to let people know about the different types of programs that
Um,
are there.
Tammy C, if you're interested in looking into it, Smart also has friends and family. It's their version of Al-Anon. If that would be something that would interest you.
And does that help the family members of people who are addicted? Is
Yes,
that what that does? Help
that's
them
what
cope
that's
with their
about.
addiction?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, okay. Because
Because
now
that's
I so
a painful thing to go through. A
really,
helpless feeling,
mm,
knowing that
just because
your child or your brother or your sister or your mom or dad or grandparent even is out there doing God knows what with God knows who, God knows where.
mm, I can see it. I can, and that would be difficult.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
definitely.
I shoved my mental health aside for years with my addiction. So when I got clean, they resurfaced in a major way. Yeah, that's what's been happening with me. That emergency meeting that I called the other day or it was Sunday, I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
everything was waking up all at once. Everything.
And
Yeah,
it makes sense because, if you've set it aside and you've not acknowledged it, it's got to get worked through so you can get past it. Until you work through it, it's always going to be this brick wall that is going to be there, and it's going to show up at different times. But
yeah,
so it does make sense,
mm,
that it would come through because your body's trying to get healthy and get
yeah.
past those traumas and figure out, how do I deal with this, and rewire your brain to have a new baseline. So
Yes.
I can understand
Yeah.
that would be a lot. And especially, I mean, I know it's not the same in a lot of ways, but like with my anorexia, I had to really we rewire my brain. And then the thing was, I kind of went the other way. So I
Okay.
went from being really, really skinny. I mean, I never, like put on a whole bunch of weight, but I'm only like 5 foot tall on my very best day, but I weighed 140 pounds. So I was definitely like very much on the other side
Yeah.
of that. I was working in an office and living here in Kentucky, and it was just a lot of like fried food, and there wasn't any healthy fast food choices anywhere, not like what I was used to when I
Yeah.
lived in Colorado and Seattle and stuff like that. So there was a point where I had to lose the weight to be
Yeah.
healthy, because
Yeah.
at that point, that's not healthy, but that's a very scary thing to know that you have to lose that weight
Yeah.
and not fall back into what you did before.
Yeah.
So I called a bunch of my friends and I'm like, look, I have to do this. Um, but you're gonna have to be there. And they were like, are you eating? What did you eat today? How are you? And I really needed that accountability. But I did it, and I'm down to a healthy weight, and it's not a thing. I mean, but it
Yeah.
was, I mean, I can imagine, I guess I said all that to say, I can imagine where you were,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you know, kind
Yeah.
of questioning that. You know, that's
Well, some of you here watching may not have been present for when I was reading the introduction to this. So, I mean, are you guys okay if I just read the introduction so you get an idea of what we're
Yeah,
doing?
I think that would be cool.
Okay. You may be reading this handbook because you're suffering from an addictive behavior or someone you love is. Whatever reason you're here, we welcome you to Smart Recovery. SMART stands for Self-Management and Recovery Training. SMART is a nonprofit organization with a mission to offer free, self-empowering, mutual help groups for abstaining from any substance or activity addiction. You're not alone. Many people will struggle with a serious addictive behavior during their life. Whether you're dealing with an addictive or compulsive behaviors or substance abuse, SMART has information, tools, and techniques that may help you replace your self-destructive behaviors with healthier options. People with drinking and substance abuse addictive behaviors, including smoking, and behavioral issues such as compulsive gambling or sexual activity, self-harm, and eating disorders. So,
Mhm.
find that SMART provides the support and tools that help them recover. Recovery is difficult, but with persistence, effort, and support, you can take back your life. Experience shows that people in recovery are more successful when they receive support from friends, family, and mental health professionals. If you're a concerned significant other, parent, partner, friend, or relative of someone who abuses substances or engages in compulsive behaviors, this handbook may help you understand your loved one's issues. SMART also has a friends and family handbook that's available from our online bookstore. If you're a teenager, the teen handbook is for you. This handbook is written in simple, straightforward language. While it's written with the recovering person in mind, it's also a valuable resource for anyone touched by or interested in addictive behaviors. There are few absolutes in recovery. What works for one person in one situation may not work for another in the same situation. With that in mind, we avoid words like must and should, and instead present ideas that have helped many of our participants. SMART is a science-based program. It's built upon well-established scientific approaches used to help people manage behavioral problems and achieve successful change. When new information becomes available, Smart Recovery adjusts its program. There's a more in-depth discussion of the science behind SMART in Chapter 7, which we're on Chapter 3 now.
Oh, nice.
In this handbook, you'll find SMART's 4-point program, tools and strategies and exercises to help you in recovery, information for family and friends.
I
Science,
like that.
the science, huh?
I like that.
Yeah, I do too, so much. The science behind SMART, reading, websites, and other resources. The SMART community. We offer face-to-face meetings in many countries, including United States, Australia, UK, and Canada. Volunteers translated our second edition handbook into Spanish, German, Portuguese, Farsi, Mandarin, Chinese, and Danish. We hope to have this edition translated by volunteers too. Our online meetings reach a global community. Our meetings, face-to-face and online, are for people in recovery, but there are family and friends meetings too. Anyone may attend any of our meetings except for those listed as closed. We aren't a membership-based organization, so there's nothing to join. Trained volunteers facilitate all of our meetings and serve in many other roles. They generously share their experience, knowledge, and compassion and are the backbone of the SMART community. By buying this handbook, you support our work of providing free face-to-face and online mutual help meetings, providing forums for learning about and discussing addictive behaviors, advocating for choice and help for addictive behaviors, and then there's acknowledgments. Special thanks to the people who generously gave their time and expertise to create this version of the SMART Handbook. Dr. William Abbott, Jim Braistad, John Fromm, Rosemary Hardin, Randy Lindell, and Richard Phillips. A special thank you to Henry Steinberger, the author and editor of SMART's second edition handbook, which is the foundation for this version. Disclaimer. Our program isn't intended to be a substitute for professional help or treatment. While SMART does help many people who work toward recovery on their own, it's also a useful supplement to professional help. If you have serious difficulties with alcohol, drugs, compulsive gambling, or sexual behaviors, overeating, self-harm, or other dangerous problems, we recognize that you may benefit from professional help in addition to working the SMART program. To find mental health professional in your area who subscribes to SMART's principles, visit the www.smartrecovery.org website. Okay, let's get started. And then it goes into chapter 1, which I don't remember when I started reading from that, but I've been doing this for a little over a week now. And like I said, we're on chapter 3.
Now, how much was the book, if you don't mind me asking? Because that sounds really interesting, like something I would like to read just to, you know.
I got this one on Amazon, and I want to say it's either it was the paperback edition, and I want to say it was around 9 or 12. It was
Oh,
it was
yeah,
doable.
yeah.
But they have these at the in-person meetings, and they give them out for free. So
Well, I
it,
think I'd like to buy it if I can support them. Like that would be, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. They
a
also have
great.
it's a free Kindle version if you're on that Kindle program
Yeah,
where certain things participate and provide their materials as a free download for
right. Oh,
those.
okay, okay. So there are options out there for people who might need the free version.
Yeah,
That's
definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
nice.
And so, I mean, it's just so far I've found it to be nothing but supportive. I went to my
So,
second meeting yesterday,
mhm.
and
So what have you
just
found to be the most helpful so far? I'm sure you get something different every week, but what has been the one thing that you think has been most helpful?
well, at the meetings, it's like my premise in here. It's like cross talking is absolutely allowed,
Mhm. Mhm.
and and I even hear a f bomb or two in there, and I'm like, yes, I'm an
That's
advocate for that kind of thing. But
that's me.
that's coming from being in a cult where you're participating in this created language that makes sense to nobody but cult members, but the
Right.
members of that cult. And it just does the cult leader's job for them of policing your every thought, word, and deed, you
Mhm.
know. And so cussing's never part of that language. So I've done a lot of it since leaving the cult. And it is a major
Right.
fu, and I feel like a lot of times it's a major fu to the language that was, you know, s- spun within me
Right.
to keep me
Right.
compliant.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
now, how did you like when did you realize you were in a cult and how did you leave it? Like I know you had said your mom had open heart surgery and you didn't go back. Is
Yeah.
that how you left or like how
Mhm.
did that
Yeah.
look for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I joined that church in
Mhm.
1999.
Mhm.
At that point, I'd been sober for 5 years and celibate for 5 years,
Mhm.
and just a lot of things for 5 years. I'd been
Mhm.
in training for that kind of thing, really and truly. And I wanted to leave in 2001. I had been fired from my job, and I knew when I took the promotion that it was the department that gets the most acts,
Yeah.
most
Right.
axes of people.
Right.
But the money was just too enticing.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was it was the sales department, and that's the first place that gets cut when they were doing downsizing.
Yeah,
By
sales
the
can be
Yeah,
tough.
and that was a big thing in the 90s.
Mhm.
And they even downsized the founder of the company that I was working for. He got kicked out of his very own company
Wow.
when it went public, and it was started being owned by shareholders. They had
Yeah.
that power to do that.
Yep.
He started the thing in his dang garage,
It's
and these people
amazing.
just come along and pay a little money, and next thing you know, they have the power to kick the guy that started the thing right on out of his own company.
Yeah, kind of one of
What
the
a
worst things you can do is offer an IPO and go public and have stockholders because you kind of
Only in
have
America,
to.
man. Only in America.
Right.
I assume it might be that way in other countries, but I guarantee you it originated here.
So then you left and you cut ties and did you have to like unwire your brain
Oh,
from that
big
then?
time.
Because
Oh,
I'm
big time.
thinking that there was probably a lot of messed up junk in your head.
Yes, there was. Kelly, can I say which church? I would prefer not to because it's not a denomination. It's not like Scientology where there's orgs all over the world. It's that one little nucleus that's never branched out beyond that.
Mhm.
And I have people that I really love and care about that are still there. And
Mhm.
I don't say what I say to wound them,
Right.
even though
And
I'm sure if they were to watch some of the stuff that I'm doing as far as when I'm talking about it, they would probably be concerned,
mhm.
and they'd probably be worried for my eternal soul and, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And
Well, and it's a tough thing when you've got somebody that's that, how I grew up is not how I believe anymore.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when you've got people that are still doing that and you change how you believe so drastically, it really can cause, issues where people are like, well, if you're doing this now, then I don't really want, my kids around you, or I don't want to be around you. And so I think you have to walk a fine line of,
yeah.
you know, this is where you're at, this is where I'm at. And I do
Mhm.
think you have to be respectful. I mean, you can say it for what it is, but I think that you do have to, I can understand you wanting to be mindful
Yeah.
of that.
I like I said, I'm not I'm not doing this to hurt anybody.
Sure, sure.
Even the ones that are in charge of it all.
Right.
But at the same time, it was a very unhealthy
Hmm.
church relationship type thing. In
Now, did
fact, just before I got out, I was on the phone with the pastor. And of course, I don't know if you know this, but I grew up as a little kid with a brother 11 years older, a big, um,
I remember that story.
okay.
Yeah.
So yes, I
Yeah.
grew up in an abusive
Hmm.
situation that my parents, that he hid well from my parents. And I had no clue that they didn't know. Although my dad was always around and I've only recently come to decide that I'm not giving him a pass because how could he not have known and seen that,
Well, and some people don't deserve passes, I mean, you
you
don't
know,
excuse things, Yeah, it's a very valid
but,
point.
so I don't remember why I was on the phone with him. I don't remember whether he called me or I called him. Chances are pretty good I called him, and it was
Mhm.
about, and if I ever did that, it was something very majorly important,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it may have been about going to see about my mom because,
Yeah.
before she went in for her open heart surgery, we had taken a trip together. And
Uh,
like we did, we used to every about every other year, I would fly into where she lived in South Texas,
mhm.
and we'd take her car and we'd go up to either Oklahoma, Shawnee, where her best
Okay.
friend Corky lived, and to visit her, and then we'd drive over to Arkansas to visit, my brother and sister-in-law,
Mhm.
and then sometimes we'd go to Mississippi to see my aunts and uncles and cousins there,
Mhm.
and sometimes we'd go over to Tennessee because there's a branch of the family that my dad was first cousins with, which made, I guess, me second cousins, or one first
Mhm.
cousin once removed, or whatever it is. I
Uh-huh.
can't keep it all straight, but we were actually closer to the cousins in Tennessee than I ever really felt like I was with, because I was in a awkward, I came along birth order wise at a very awkward kind of in between time. My parents were quite a bit older, and my
Mhm.
dad was the last of all the five children to get married,
Oh,
and then he had my brother. So he grew up with all those first cousins. And then I
right.
came along 11 years later when they're, coming of age and starting their lives. And I'm a little
Right, right,
kid,
right.
and
Yeah.
and I'm not quite the same age as the second cousins, the children of my actual cousins. I'm a little older than them, so I just never really fell into or fit into cultural wise the whole family culture.
Sure,
Plus, we
sure.
lived in Arkansas and they were in Mississippi,
Yeah.
so I'd only get to see him once a year or
Mhm.
so, maybe
Right.
twice if we're lucky. And it was always an 8-hour drive to get there. And
And that's never
welcome
fun in
back,
the car.
Candy.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to read this comment here. Okay, my husband was in a religious cult in England, God or Jesus Army. Yeah, that they're probably very similar. It has frightened him away from any religious organizations, which is too bad because a healthy church home can be great. That's true. When I got back to Northwest Arkansas, I pretty quickly got together with Steve because we had known each other before when I lived here before. And I grew up here in Northwest Arkansas.
Mhm.
And I grew up, and my mom started taking us to the Methodist church, just me and her, when I was 9.
Mhm.
She could see that I was struggling with something. She did not know what.
Mhm.
And she was worried about me, and she didn't know what to do or how
Mhm.
to fix it. And so she started a 4-H club to get me involved in 4-H. She started taking us to church, and she became the choir director, and I started singing the choir. She taught me how to sing alto, and
Mhm.
how to harmonize.
Mhm.
And so she was just doing anything and everything she possibly could to quote unquote save me because she didn't know what
Right.
else to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he beat me up in 2018, when my husband got me safely away from where he could not physically harm me because of it, he had cut his part of his foot off in an angry thing, and he put me to where he would have injured himself trying to get to me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
After he picked me up off the floor unconscious, and yeah, it was that bad. But it didn't stop him from just continuing to yell at me, which he came into the house doing. And I was yelling back up at him. I promised myself I would never let you touch me again, ever. And I
Mhm.
just kept saying that over and over and over, not letting his words get into me edgewise. I just refused whatever he was throwing out. And after got him out of the house, or Steve got him out of the house, um, and things quieted down. I'm still sitting in the spot that Steve had put me to get me out of harm's way.
Mhm.
And Mom said that I didn't know that was happening to you. And she
Oh.
said if I'd have known, I'd have done something. And I know she would have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But, she was working an 8-hour intense job. In the morning, she'd get up and she'd wash syringes from the worming or the whatever medicine they were having to give the sheep or the cows, or, you
Right.
know, and,
Right.
uh, and then she'd meet up with there were 3 other ladies that she would carpool with. And that was
Mhm.
an hour into work. You had to meet it with each person, and that takes time, and you
Mhm.
had to leave the house accordingly. And she was the first person because we lived the furthest out from anyone in the
Uh-huh.
carpool.
Right. Right.
And she was started out the secretary for social work service and was promoted to secretary for the chief of surgery.
Oh.
And she continued to wear her little high heels, and she would be running in those high heels chasing down a surgeon to get a signature for an emergency surgery, and her little feet were
Oh.
like little Barbie doll feet.
Oh,
They
yeah. Very.
permanently formed to those high
Yeah.
heels.
Oh, yeah.
Even when
Yeah.
they were in a relaxed state, she literally looked like she had little Barbie doll feet. I would just sit there and stare at her feet and marvel because I love
Yeah.
my Barbie dolls.
Oh, yeah. 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 Well, and running in heels is no easy task. I've done it
Mhm,
before when I've had to, but like, yeah, that takes talent.
mhm. And
Wow.
so then she'd carpool, and the carpool would meet up, and they actually some of the ladies worked in the neighboring hospital, which was the public hospital for all the
Oh,
rest of us that weren't veterans,
mhm.
and they used to be side by side.
Mhm.
And so some of them worked here and some of them worked at the VA. Most of them worked at the VA, actually.
Yeah.
And then she'd get home and she'd have to cook dinner for all us ingrates because my brother was still living there. He
Mhm.
never left home, never ever. He did not leave
Oh,
home. And
wow.
that's a whole story that I'll save for another time.
Right.
And then, of course, there's, if she wasn't too tired to do it, there was cleanup. Most of the time she was too
Mhm.
tired to do it, and the dishes would be left for me to do the next day. And I'd
Right.
be in that
Right.
cold, dirty, yucky, clammy dishwater because we weren't taught any other way to do dishes other than you fill up the sink with soapy water. Well, the bubbles went down like really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh, I hate doing dishes to this day from
Oh,
from that, but I've got to get over that because Steve can't be the only one doing dishes.
remember when I was little, they had
I don't like his system, but I've got to learn to operate within it because, he worked at a
when I
restaurant and he
was
knows his
little,
stuff a lot better. Huh?
they had the portable dishwashers with the hose. Do you
Yeah.
remember those where you would like
Yeah.
pull it out in front of the sink and then you had the hose and you'd hook it on there? That's
Yeah.
the kind of dishwasher we had. And then, my mom got a really fancy dishwasher, but still, yeah, we would do the same thing. We'd let them soak overnight, which was really, word for I don't want to deal with this, so I'll see you tomorrow.
Right on. But where I was going with that was when I had that phone conversation with the pastor about going to see about my mom. In times past, I had let him talk me down from the ledge of going to see about her when she would have a medical situation.
Oh.
And this time, I was just letting him know that I was going. I
Mhm.
think that's the reason that I was on the phone with him.
Mhm.
And when he couldn't talk me down from that quote unquote ledge, um, I said to him, being in your church is a lot like being in an abusive relationship. And that is something I know quite a lot about.
Mhm.
And he kind of, just to
Yeah.
kind of not hear it and
Right.
did the thing that he did, and turn the conversation somewhere else. But I was just sitting there on the phone. I said what I said.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Mhm.
said what I said. And the
Right.
conversation was over as far as I was concerned. I
Right.
was going to see about my mom. Fuck
Well, and
everything else.
that's terrible that
It
somebody
was
would try
bad.
to
It was bad.
isolate
I
like that.
have I have guilt and shame over that to this day, you know.
Mhm.
She fell in her driveway in 2006
Uh-huh.
and it happened when I was sitting in a restaurant with a group of people from my church. We were going to Romania on a mission trip
Mhm.
and my mom knew where I was. She knew I
Mhm.
was not getting ready to board the plane, but she would not let her neighbor call me to tell me about it until I was getting ready to board the plane.
Mm.
And I still could have backed out, right? And I
Yeah.
started to, but I didn't know how bad it was at that state,
Right.
at that point.
Right. Right.
But she told her friend not to tell me how bad it was, that she was going to be okay, and she wanted me to go to Romania,
Mhm.
you know, and it was a 2-week thing, not
Mhm.
quite, just under 2 weeks, or maybe it was a full 2 weeks. Anyway, and it was a wonderful trip, but I mean, the price. My
Yeah.
mom was total care in a hospital with people not doing right for her, you know.
Right. Right.
She had busted her left kneecap and what's the ulna? Is that the big bone in the forearm?
I don't know. I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what it's
The
called.
big bone in the forearm, right at the just right here at the elbow, had
Yeah.
completely broken into and shattered. Her X-ray looked like shattered glass in
That's
there.
the humerus.
The humerus, he says. Which is dangerous. You can bleed out from
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, when I got back, I was prepared to use up my sick time or no time to go and
Mhm.
see about her. And I got talked down from that. Like, well, what can you do for her when you get there? I don't know. She's my mom. I can be there for her. I can
Right,
do whatever she needs me to do. What do you mean?
right,
What can I do for her? You
right,
know?
right.
And I let that person talk me out of seeing about her in a desperate, vulnerable place. Why?
Mhm,
Why? For no good reason at all. No
mhm,
good reason.
mhm. Did you know that it was that desperate, or were you still operating off of the thing that your mom's friend had told you that it's not really that bad
Well,
and
by the time I got back, I had an inkling that it was worse than they were letting on.
see,
I
I
knew
see.
my mom,
Right, right.
and
Yeah.
I knew when she was leaving stuff out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That yeah.
And the main thing that was being left out is she could not talk on the phone when I would call the hospital.
Oh,
Yeah, when I'd find a way from Romania to call the hospital. I think we
right.
had like one cell phone, and if we didn't use up the allotted time for the day, that then I could call her.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
a lot of times I couldn't actually speak to her. So that was my first clue
Sure.
that it
Sure.
was bad, that it was
Wow.
worse than was being let on. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, that wasn't gonna happen again.
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
Well, and I mean, but good for you that you've seen it and you drew that boundary and you stood your ground on it and you didn't allow yourself to get, you know, coerced into not going because it's a hard thing to go against religion. It's a hard thing to go against something that, we're taught, most of us, is a
Mhm.
good thing and is a positive thing. And I'm not bashing on religion, but it's a very difficult thing to kind of look at that and say,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think this is right. It's not that all religion is wrong. It's just this one
This
isn't right. And
one,
there's a lot
there's
of,
something that is not sitting right here.
yeah, and there's a lot of guilt when you step away from something. I mean, I
Yeah.
stepped away. The religion I was raised in is not a bad religion. I mean, at all. It's not toxic. It's not, I mean, for me, it wasn't a good fit. But even when I stepped away, um, it was really hard for me, and that was healthy. So I can only imagine what it must have been like to leave what you knew and the family that you had and go to a different state, go from California to Texas, which is a huge just cultural change in general. I mean, I'm not sure where out in Cali you were, but I've lived in Cali, a few different places, so that's different
Yeah.
going to Texas, wherever you were. Um and then seeing your mom go through, I remember what you kind of mentioned, she went through with her open heart surgery, and I mean, that had to be a lot,
Mhm.
and, I mean, it makes sense of why you would kinda shove that down and push it to
Yeah.
the side, and,
Yeah. Well, and
um
not only that, they kept us constantly running,
yeah.
for the Lord, all
Mm,
hands on deck. It was always an all hands on deck situation.
right, right, right.
We'd have 3 meetings a week, and they would be hours and hours and hours long especially when I first joined, like 3 and 4-hour meetings.
Oh, man.
And, and I no matter where I lived in San Diego County, it was no less than a 40-minute drive to get home from church. And we
Right.
all had jobs,
Yeah.
so
Wow.
so I had to be up and be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning, but we'd have the Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night, and at that time too, when I first joined, a lot of revivalists were coming through from all over the world, and so we'd have 1 week tent meetings, 2 week tent meetings. In fact, I found the church through a tent meeting that someone was telling me about,
Oh, wow.
and I really thought I'd found my home,
Wow.
these were my people, because
Yeah.
they thought like me or what I thought was me,
Yeah.
and the
Mhm.
and and I was just in love and in awe, and and I just really felt like the Lord had just put me where I was supposed to be, and I don't know what to think about all that now. I have some processing to do on all that, on that end of things.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I mean, the one thing that I will credit them with being so, controlling of our every thought, move, and deed, and keeping us so tired that we couldn't think for ourselves. Sleep
Hmm.
deprivation's a powerful tool in
It
a
really
cult
is.
leader's tool belt.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had it pretty good, all of us.
Hmm. Yeah.
And where was I? What was I saying before
You're
that?
going to say the one thing you can credit them with.
Oh, it kept me alive because it kept me sober.
Hmm.
I had something else to absorb myself or immerse myself in rather than
Right.
that. you know
Right.
and it
Right.
didn't kill me. It could have, but it didn't.
Right.
There
Right.
were people that did lose their lives doing for the church.
That's
Yep.
that's tough.
Three specific ones come to mind, and I'll tell those when I'm ready. But one of them was my very first video that I talked about. So I have talked about one of them,
Hmm.
and
Well, and there's a lot of guilt and shame that it comes with that kind of thing too, because when you leave, it's hard to um it's something you were always taught was right, and something you were always taught, this is a good thing, and especially when you see it as a good thing, then you see it for what it is. It's there. I can see where there would be anger and guilt and different things.
yeah, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I'm distracted.
Oh,
Kelly,
that's okay.
I wanted to say have a great day. I hope you get to feeling better. I'm so
I
sorry you're
feel
going through
better,
that.
Kelly. Wow. Well, I'm glad that you found the smart meeting, and I'm glad that you're getting your medication figured out and you're
Mhm.
starting to kind of go through. Now, do you have like a therapist that you're working with?
I do. I do. I'm on
Yeah.
my eighth one since my brother beat me up, but that's okay. You
Sometimes it
know?
takes a while to find one that you vibe with. Like,
Yeah.
that's really important. You have to
Mhm.
feel, you can work with the smartest person in the world, but if you feel like it's just this constant tension,
Yeah.
or they don't understand you, or you're not feeling
Yeah.
seen or heard or understood, and
Yeah.
you're being treated like a textbook, it's really tough. I had one therapist that was the best therapist in town, like most
Yeah.
expensive best therapist, and I just couldn't. I was like, I can't with you. And
Yeah.
it wasn't helpful, it was almost more hurtful, and it's hard to fire somebody, but there are times where you do have to
Mhm.
step away,
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
step away and say,
Yeah.
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 Well, do you
The ones that I did vibe with were in-person ones. This one that I have now is through one of those online things like BetterHelp,
uh-huh,
but it's not BetterHelp. It's Calmary. And my two in-person therapists, granted it was during the pandemic and all that, and
right.
but they both ended up ghosting me. How is that okay for a therapist?
Yeah, I don't think that is.
I really want to know. I
I
mean,
mean,
and even if did you ever see that movie What About Bob with Bill Murray
yes, yeah. He's
and
the guy that
Richard
goes on
Dreyfuss?
vacation with his therapist and is always there, and yes, yes, yes.
Even if I am What About Bob, which I don't feel like I am,
Right, right.
how is that okay?
Well, and it's something where, they should have said, you've crossed a boundary. And I'm not saying that you did, but, you've crossed a boundary, or you don't understand this. So we're going to have to, so that you understand what happened, or because how do you process being ghosted?
Yeah.
Like you have no point of reference to know, don't do this again, or
That's
whatever. And
right.
because even that you're not learning. There's
Yeah.
always an opportunity to learn. You learn what to do or what not to do. And if somebody just vanishes, um, that's not helpful, at all. But I'm
No.
glad you found one that is working for you now. Like, that's
Yeah.
really
She's
important.
working for me in the area I need help with. One of
Sure.
them.
Yeah.
I don't know that she's a good fit for the really deep issues yet. We haven't
Mhm.
gone there, but,
Mhm.
right now I just need to get some order in my space,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she's been great at helping me get some strategies going for tackling that because, it's a big old elephant, you know, and I
Right.
don't even know where to take the first nibble in
Right.
the elephant sandwich.
Yeah.
So she's
Well,
she's been really great for that, and that's important too.
it is. It is. I believe truly that people show up in your life when they're supposed to,
Yeah,
and then they leave,
yeah,
when when their part of it is done, and
yeah,
there's always a reason why people show up. And sometimes you show up and you're like, just like me finding the lifeboat and everything, and this and all of you. I was like, well, what? How am I gonna help you guys? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do I bring to this? Because I
yeah,
don't understand this.
right,
But, I realized what it was just positivity and optimism and just being there, and sometimes that's more important than being able to say the right thing, and so,
true,
you know,
very true.
you, there's a lot of times where, you learn, and I learn a lot from all of you, as far as
Yeah,
some things that I never would have seen or understood, but also there's a more human side to it, because before I always just kind of seen it as like, how do you get there? And I never really understood, like, how do you get there? But now I'm starting to see how you get there, and I'm seeing it differently. And and I just think it's beautiful to,
yeah, right on.
be able to even offer just a different perspective, because I think sometimes you can feel, um you can feel more broken. I think sometimes if you're an addict, I think you feel more broken than you think everybody else feels. But when you realize that even the normies feel just as broken, then I think it makes you realize that that gap isn't as wide. Does that make sense?
It does.
I think that, and that's why I try to tell people too, like, look, I don't understand this part, but I
Yeah,
do understand these, and
yeah,
you're not alone in this,
yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah,
think that's one thing that I've seen, is that that's an important thing too, is to just, everybody wants to be seen, and everybody
mhm,
wants to be heard, and everybody wants to feel like they belong. And I might not understand the whole thing, but if I can understand this much of it, that's this much more than somebody felt like they were being understood before.
yeah,
And I think that's important, you
I
know,
do too.
you
By
know.
the way, I wanted to tell you, you are a fantastic listener, and I wanna thank you for that.
Well, of course.
Yeah,
Again, a lot of therapy.
right on.
I think it's important when you let people talk, they tell you a lot, and it's really important. I think learning to listen is one of those skills that I always try to approach it as, let everybody else in the room talk first, and
Okay,
then ask your
okay.
question. There's a podcast that I love, and his name is Simon Sinek, and he was talking about, somebody had interviewed Nelson Mandela, because Nelson Mandela's dad was like this tribal chief, and he's considered like this really amazing leader, Nelson
Yeah,
Mandela.
yeah,
And
100%.
he said what he learned was everybody sat in a circle at these tribal meetings, and his dad was always the last one to speak. And so the part of
Mm,
the podcast that went in was like, don't go in and say, here's the problem. This is what I think we should do. I want to hear your ideas because you've already defeated it. You just go in and say, let's talk about addiction. Tell me your experience with it. And then you learn. And I think a lot of it too is really listening to understand, not listening to respond. And and I think that's a big thing too. A lot of people listen to respond, and it's really just listening to what, like not listening so I can be like, oh, that one point, but listening to everything you say.
Right
So,
on.
you know, I think
Yeah.
I think it's important. And again, I spent a lot of my life not feeling heard and not feeling seen and not feeling understood. And I don't want anybody who ever talks to me to feel that way. I want them to be like, she's a crazy little habit, but I left a little more positive, you know.
Right on.
So yeah, but thank you for that compliment. That
Right
was very
on. I did want to say this about the cult. It wasn't all bad. Because if it was all bad, nobody would be there.
sure,
If it was
sure.
just about the, ka-ch, 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 you know, but doing it in such a nice and charismatic way that you want to be the hand on deck,
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
because it's for the Lord. We're gonna charge for the Lord. There was a lot of that.
Well, and what a noble cause too. I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at people's faith across the board, you want to be that, and especially if you're you want to be that diligent servant. You're taught to
Mhm.
be a servant.
Yeah.
And very few people are leaders. A lot of people are servants. And I mean, there are good things that come from everything. I really believe in my heart that even the worst things can there's something positive about it. There's something you can take away. And I think
Yeah.
in order to process things and forgive things, I think you have to find that one positive. When I was married to my ex-husband, it was really nasty and really bad. There were some positives about it. I
Okay.
got my kids, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but there were some positives.
Yeah.
And for me, I had to find those positives
Yeah.
so that I could let go of all of the other stuff because the other stuff was so bad.
Yeah.
But I had to find those positives and be thankful in that
Yeah.
to process and be able to forgive, and I think a lot of people get stuck in the anger part of it.
Of course.
And it's
Yes.
easy to be angry.
It is easy to be angry.
It's really difficult to forgive.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most difficult things. But the thing is, once you figure out how to do it once, then you can start, and it's like a snowball
Hmm.
thing. It's kind of
Right.
like, hmm?
Hmm.
It's like it, it's kind of like so one of the books I read one time was like Dave Ramsey, and he was talking about the debt snowball. Okay, and he's like, you don't start off trying to pay down your biggest debt. You start with your smallest debt, and you pay that off first, and then you go to the next one, and then you go to the next one, and then you go to the next one. So all of the money that you were putting toward that first debt, when it gets paid off, that's a little victory, right? And you're like, yay. And then you take that money and you put it toward the next one, and then you get that, and then you've
Okay.
got two victories. And then you get to the big one. You don't start with the big one because that is so overwhelming. So if you've got $20,000 in student loans and you've got a $200 credit card bill, you pay the $200 first.
Hmm.
And that, to me, is how I approach my life. I don't start with the biggest thing first.
Okay.
Even
Yeah. Makes
when
sense.
my house is overran, because I get that way too. I get so wrapped up in my creative process that the house just, I come in one morning and I'm like, well, we need to do something about this, because if I were to die today and somebody were to come into this house, they would be like, what was she doing? you know,
She got
that's a,
she got killed by the avalanche. Oh, that's how my house is right now.
but you always start with the smallest thing. And I hate dishes like you. God, I hate dishes. So I always do those last, because I have the momentum going. And
Yeah.
then when I
Makes
end, I'm like, okay, this is the last little bit. Let's do the dishes. I don't ever start first. I used to start there first, and it
Yeah.
would take all my energy. And I was like,
Yeah.
but, I think a lot of things in life work that way.
Yeah.
You don't start with the huge transgressions. You start with the little things because we have to learn how to forgive. It's not something that is just in us, and it is not something that is always taught. It's easy for us to be angry. That's
Hmm.
almost kind of taught, in some of the stuff that we see on TV and everything, but and you're taught, you kind of see that
Hmm.
vengefulness, you see that,
Oh man, I did not
right?
know how vengeful I could be until my
Mhm.
brother did that. It's
Yeah,
one thing when you're a little kid,
right.
you don't have a choice because you got to be
Yeah.
there to survive.
Mhm.
Um, and then 30 years or 40 years away from it,
Yeah.
and here it is again after you've done all
Mhm.
this work to
Mhm.
create boundaries and enforce
Right,
them, and and learn that you even had a right to them, you know
right. Yeah.
it hit so different.
Mhm.
And the part that got me really vengeful is that he did it in front of mom and endangered her that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was helpless. She was back reclined in a chair, and she was 100% walker dependent. She was 91 years old. And if if Steve was just kind of working to keep the fight away from her, in addition to getting me safe,
Right.
and he
Right.
managed to get squeeze himself in between my brother, because he did the up close. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it was
Mhm.
sick. It was
Mhm.
it was sick, very
Mhm.
sick. Ugh.
Yeah.
And yeah, when they came to tell me at the beginning of January, I think it was January 1st or 2nd. No, it was January 2nd, because the sheriff pulled in my driveway. I'm like, oh, that's different. And they came to tell me that my brother had passed away. And of course, the first feeling that I felt was relief,
Mhm.
because I didn't have to keep hiding.
Mhm.
We,
Mhm.
I went off grid, so to speak, so that he couldn't find us and finish the job, because you know, I really do. He had murder in his eyes when he was walking up the sidewalk into my door and pushing
Mhm.
his way into my door.
Mhm.
My instinct was to close the door and lock it, and he
Mhm.
knew it. And he
Mhm.
dove at the door and pushed his way through, yelling like
Yeah.
like like a fireball, you know, and pushing and pushing me into that corner that he used to push me into,
Mhm.
to where I start to where he's right over the top of me, and then
Mhm.
fight or flight kicks in, and I start screaming, and then he can start punching.
Mhm. Mhm.
That gave him the permission to start punching.
Right. Wow.
So when they told me that he was dead, of course the first feeling was relief. And then I started getting pissed off because I wasn't done with
Yeah.
vengeance on him.
Yeah.
Oh, I was far from done. I was going to make his life a living hell 24/7. However, wherever,
Mhm.
whatever, you know?
Mhm.
It was one of those things where I was so vengeful. I was willing to go down with that ship going down,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
That's when you know you've made an enemy, is when they're willing to allow themselves to be hurt to the
Yeah.
point of even more mortally hurt to take you down. That's someone you don't want as an enemy. And I didn't know that I could be that kind of enemy until that happened, until he
Well,
broke my mama's heart and
and
gave
that
me a
was the
black eye that lasted for 7 months.
and that was the catalyst for you to realize the abuse that you were in,
Yeah.
the amount of it. And
Mm.
and then that it's anger and revenge from a lot of different ways. It's not just a single facet. All of that is multifaceted, and it's all very
Candy.
very different. Oh, I can't say what she is. She.
She's gonna have to get going soon,
Oh,
she says.
bye,
Thank
Candy.
you so much. And I'll still be doing the 440 as far as I know. No, nothing going nuts around here or anywhere else. That's
Right,
kind of the
right,
that's kind of the rule of thumb.
right. It's a good rule of thumb. I don't know what my dog is barking at. It's very difficult though, when you can see that inside of yourself and you never realize
Yes.
you had
Because
it
that's
in
a
there.
person I did not know. I did not
Yeah.
recognize. I did not know that I was that person. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, that you have it in you. And
Yeah.
and that's one of those, like, that's going to be a way down the road,
Yeah.
um forgiveness,
Yeah.
as opposed to, the things that you can, work on now. I know, my best friend and my husband both had moms who treated them really badly. I mean, it was I heard these stories and I just cried. I mean, I
Yeah.
couldn't fathom.
Yeah.
And both of their moms have passed away. And one of the things that I, you know, realized was that when their moms passed away, my husband refused to go to his mom's um, funeral. The last things that she said to him were the most vile, disgusting things that a mother could ever say to a son. And I'm so glad that I wasn't there because I would have assaulted her, on life support in a hospital room. And I would have just gone to jail and I would have been like, pay my bill, don't pay my bill, whatever. I'll smile in the mugshot. That's that's where I was at.
Yes.
And but he had to go there alone. He knew enough to know that it would end that way. And he's like, no, no, just I'll go deal with it. But there's that, what I've come to understand from my best friend, there's that relief, like you said, that it is not going to happen anymore. It's never
Yes.
going to happen again. You can go
Yes.
forward in your life. But
Yes.
there's that anger that you didn't get a chance to exact your revenge on them in some
Mhm.
way, and that seemed to be the hardest part.
I
Not that.
mean, I had him couch surfing. I
Yeah,
did that through every legal channel known to
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
And oh, I was just getting started.
Well, and that's what, my friend explained to me is that, there's the realization of what the relationship should have been and what it wasn't,
Yeah.
and how, like, she felt um
Can't imagine.
robbed of that.
Yes.
And really, like, that was hard for her,
Yeah.
to deal with. And she
Yeah.
said the other thing that was hard for her was when people would say, "Sorry for your loss." She's like, "I'm not, but how do you
Thank
explain
you.
that to
I
someone?"
appreciate the sentiment, but yeah, not much of a loss here.
Right, right, right. And I've noticed that even with those two, there was still a lot that had to be worked through,
Yeah.
really, to get past. And one of them has done a lot of work, and one of them really hasn't done a whole lot of work. But
Yeah.
um,
Whew.
it's a hard thing when something like that,
Can't imagine that with a parent.
Oh God,
Devastating.
the stuff
Devastating.
that, man, I cried. I just
Mhm.
cried. I
Mhm.
never cried like that before when
Mhm.
they had told me what they went through.
Oh,
And um, you know, it's but it's hard. It's still something to forgive.
yes.
Um, but it's one of the harder ones. And like
Yes.
I was saying, we're taught how to be vengeful. Like, it's in us. It's really easy, but we
I
see it
don't think it really
everywhere.
has to be taught, to be honest.
No, to be taught how to forgive. You
For real.
do have to.
'Cause I don't even know what that means or what
Right,
that looks like, and I'm not
right.
interested.
Right, right, right. Well, and that's the thing. If
Yeah.
you're not there yet, you can't do it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's not going to be genuine.
Mm-mm.
Um, and but you have to be taught it. And to me, it's amazing the things that we have to be taught versus the things that are just in us, you know.
Candy's saying bye. She'll talk
Oh,
to you later.
bye.
Thank you, Candy. We love you.
You know, so yeah. But well, I think I should probably bounce too because I don't know what my dog is going nuts about, but there is something at my front door.
Okay.
So, but this was
Thank you so
fun.
much for this.
Oh,
This
sure,
has been
sure.
really, really amazing.
This is fun. I like to
It
get
is.
on and just kind of chat because because my husband's on the road of the 53 weeks or 52 weeks, whatever's in a year. He's usually only home about 3, maybe 4 weeks a year if I'm
My
lucky.
word.
So, yeah, so
Okay.
he's gone more than he's home.
Yeah.
So, I always like to kinda get on and, like, talk to people or just
Yeah.
like, that's why chats and everything and, it doesn't always have to be this deep thing, sometimes it's nice to just kind of get on and
Just
and,
talk about
you know
anything. Yeah.
yeah, tell funny stories or something
Yeah.
because it's, and I live in a private community, and so a lot of people don't live here year round. There's only about 5 families that do, and
Okay.
I'm the youngest one at 47, so you can imagine how they go up in age from there. So it's kind of one of those like, who can I talk to?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
I can
well,
relate to
everybody
that.
have a good afternoon. I will try to make it
Yes.
back to the 440. It was so good to be
It
able
was
to sit and
good.
chat with you and drink
Thank
some
you.
coffee. And
Yeah.
so I'll see you later this afternoon.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Let's see. I think I gotta flip around here. There we go. I gotta do this whole thing.
All
All right. You guys have a
right.
good one.
You too. And peace, y'all. I'm logging out as well. Getting ready for the afternoon.